Friday, June 12th. Welcome back. This is SamCentre. We're going to talk UFC Friday, Freedom 250, the White House card for old Donnie Trump's birthday. As a Canadian, we have mixed feelings about everything, but as a UFC fan, might be the best Sunday ever. It's hard to say. We'll get into it. We're going to talk World Cup, NHL, NBA, what happened on the CFL Thursday night, and then it's UFC Friday, baby. Packed show today. Timestamps will be in the description as always. Super excited to get into it. Thank you for your time. This is SamCentre. Let's go. All right, segment one, we're talking World Cup. It just began today, Thursday, as I'm recording this video here in the evening, and an exciting day of matches, right? We had the kickoff in Mexico City, in the Ciudad de Mexico. It was amazing, right? The beautiful performance on the vocals, the incredible atmosphere in the stadium itself. The Mexican fans were so ready for this opportunity, and the team itself was too, right? Early on, you saw a chance for Mexico to score. They didn't, and then a few moments later, they were able to capitalize. And the commentators themselves, they said, it feels like an earthquake in here, which is what you'd expect. The home country, a country like Mexico, you had the El Presidente out there. She gave the opening message in Spanish and English, and then you just had a great performance. So if you're curious, I'm sure it's all over YouTube, all over Reddit, anywhere that you'll find anything like that. And Mexico won the game 2-0. A great start for them as one of the host countries. Korea was the other team in action against Czechia, and it was actually a comeback win by the Koreans. They ended up winning 2-1. For me, I'm not a massive soccer fan. I support Soccer Canada, and I support a lot of different nations. Mexico is probably my favorite team outside of Canada. But for me, soccer is never really something I grew up playing. But this is the World Cup. And we're gambling, and we're watching, and we're doing everything possible to tune in for these couple days because it really is a spectacle of sport. This is showing the number one most popular sport on the planet. You go to Rio de Janeiro on a holiday, you go anywhere in Mexico, you're going to see a soccer ball in every single person's group. And that's something that's really powerful, right? This is a game that even if I myself am not personally interested in most of the time, it's a powerful, powerful event. And so the other two host nations, Canada and the United States, are in action today. As you are watching this video, for me tomorrow as I'm recording it, Friday, Canada will take on Bosnia, and the United States will take on their opponent there in their opening round as well. So for me, it's important just to recognize the gravity of the World Cup, even if ourselves we aren't soccer fans. I did have an opportunity to interact with Soccer Canada when they were here in Edmonton at Commonwealth Stadium. I got to go down onto the field in front of 45,000 screaming Canada soccer fans. I threw scarves, I hyped up the crowd, and I had my 15 minutes of fame. It was truly a great experience. I can't thank Soccer Canada enough for that opportunity. So for me, from the bottom of my heart, win or lose, I'll always be a fan of you, Soccer Canada. That being said, my pick would be France. I think they'd be the odds-on favorite, if you went to something like a Bet365 or a DraftKings. But that doesn't matter, right? The most important thing is they have a stacked roster. They have maybe the best player in the entire world right now. Obviously, Messi and Ronaldo, and there's a bunch of other guys who are always going to go down as the GOATs of the sport. But Mbappe is incredible. And the rest of that squad over there at France is really nice. And their mint green jerseys with the gold trim. I mean, come on. If you haven't seen those yet, check them out. I got myself some World Cup merch. I actually got myself a long sleeve Mexico jersey and a Canada jersey, and I'll probably pick up the jersey of the winning country, whether that is Portugal this year. Maybe Spain ends up taking it. Argentina's always in the mix. France. Lots of great teams. So tune into the World Cup if that's something you're interested in. But this, SamCentre's not here. You're not here for high-level analysis. You want to see what's going on in the sports world. And we had the next game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals that happened tonight. As I'm recording this video, the game actually has just wrapped up. And I was tempted to put the segment as Carter Fart again. And ultimately, I'm not sure he's totally to blame for tonight's performance. I think really the Hurricanes showed levels tonight. Very few shots on goal that they were able to concede to the Golden Knights, and I think just an overall dominance to the game that we were really expecting, right? I came on here and I said, I'd be expecting that 3-1 type game, and that's what we saw for most of it, right? The final ended up being 4-2. The Knights showed some heart, but they took penalties in the third period, and they just kind of played from behind. And against a team like Carolina, it wasn't going to work, right? So we have a hurricane warning in Vegas. The Carolina Hurricanes are on Cup clinch watch. Congratulations so far to the organization. Obviously, Game 6 will be everything the Vegas Golden Knights have in order to extend that series to Game 7. And we'll see, right? I think you really did see who the better team was overall tonight, but it's a hockey game. Anything can happen. Vegas has proven they're capable of showing up, especially on their home ice. And now we go from here. So Jordan Staal, most likely going to win the Conn Smythe if Carolina ends up winning the Cup there. The incredible performance. He kills penalties. He scores when it matters. And he's the leader of that team. They have, I mentioned before, guys in the organization who really do care and have won with the Hurricanes. They've been around for a while. They have a good group of guys in Aho and Sheznikov, and some of those young guys that they have surrounded by veterans. They're getting clutch goaltending from a guy who didn't even play the entire playoffs. And that's what we talked about in our episode on Wednesday. Sometimes you need that goaltending to step up when you didn't have it for the whole season. And Vegas got that early on in the playoffs, and that's why they're here, truthfully. And now they're not getting it. You've seen, we talked about last episode how Carter Fart was the first man in history to give up 4 goals in the team's first 4 games to open up a Stanley Cup Finals. Well, now he's the first man in history to give up 4 goals in the first 5 games of a team's Stanley Cup Finals. And like I mentioned, not everything is on him. Vegas was severely outplayed. They take multiple penalties, and there was multiple opportunities for that game to get out of hand even earlier. However, it might be time to switch things up if you're Vegas. I don't know what you have to lose at this point. Maybe you ride with what got you there, but maybe you just throw in the backup and you say, hey, it worked for us in our Cup run years ago there. When we played Edmonton, we ended up putting in Aiden Hill and things changed. So maybe you look at something like that again. So Carolina Hurricanes, hurricane warning in Vegas for Game 6. Super excited to see the result. A Game 7 would be exciting, but I don't see it. I think Carolina's on a roll now. The official SamCentre prediction, Carolina Hurricanes in 6, celebrating in Las Vegas, and probably putting their entire game check on black in Caesars Palace. Probably red, right there, the Hurricanes. So entire game check on red, Caesars Palace, after winning the Stanley Cup Finals. If that hits, I'm not even sure you do anything after that. I think you retire, because that is the peak of your life, especially if you're somebody like me who has a gambling addiction. On to segment 3. Absolutely incredible. And here's what we were talking about with the NBA. They needed their signature moment. We've been able to talk about the NHL this entire finals and how it might be the greatest finals ever. And that's because they've had multiple records being broken. They've had history being made. They've had things that you can clip and you can put on Twitter and people can react. The NBA got that in their game, and it was massive. This game was going to be a turning point in the series. It was an opportunity for the San Antonio Spurs to even up the series after going down 2-0. And it really did look like that was exactly what was going to happen. We talked about on SamCentre on Wednesday's episode how the Knicks just got really stagnant on offense, uncreative, and they had no answer for Wemby. Right? We talked about the free throw disparity and how that might continue, because what are they really supposed to do? And in the first half, that's exactly what happened. The Spurs went up by as many as 29 points. It's the largest lead that was blown in the history of the NBA Finals. It's very close to the largest lead in the history of the entire league that's ever been blown. And we talked about the pressure of playing at Madison Square Garden for a team that's the youngest in NBA Finals history in their starting 5. And we said incredible by the Spurs organization, by that team, by Wemby and that group of leaders to go in there in Game 3 when the pressure was on and they didn't break. They looked the Knicks in the face and they didn't break. And then they went in game 4 and they broke. And we talked about it. We said you put pressure on the Spurs, and that's what you need to do. And that's not what the Knicks did in the first half of that game. Wemby was driving every single play, and the Knicks were on their third string center due to foul trouble for Karl Anthony Towns and Mitch Robinson. And I really don't feel like this was the refs taking over the game. And I don't even think the Knicks can say it was the refs taking over the game, and they wouldn't. It was just simply they were grabbing Wemby. They had no answer. They looked sluggish, and it really did seem like that was the turning point of the series. The Knicks were disinterested in playing. How do you host Game 4 when courtside seats, Marty Supreme is sitting over there paying $100,000 to watch you go down by 29 points in the first half? It's unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I texted my buddy and I said, you should have just bet on the Spurs money line, right? It's the easiest thing in the world. We're laughing about it. Game over. But we wouldn't be talking about it on SamCentre if game was over. So the Knicks did what? That's the title of the segment. They came down from 29 points. And they came back to win the game, win game 4, go up 3-1, and take a commanding grip on the NBA Finals. And to me, this series is now officially over. I don't know how you come back from this if you're the San Antonio Spurs. Wemby said it himself. He said either we give up and we quit from this, or we get stronger. And they're going to get stronger, I'm sure, in the long run. But it's been a really, really long finals run. And everything was working that first half. They would not miss a three-pointer if they were going to take it. It was unbelievable. Wemby, every time he would drive, they had to help on him because he could then just kick it to the open shooter. So it was foul, help on Wemby. If you foul, now you have no center for the rest of the game. So in the second quarter, they said, okay, we won't foul Wemby. We'll switch to just coming off of the shooters and double teaming. And then they hit everything. And it was unbelievable. You saw that and you said, this Spurs team is winning it all, right? They had 2 tough, hard-fought games against the Knicks in game 1 and 2, which they dropped. And they went in there and they won a tough game 3. And now they're destroying them in game 4. And then Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby, NBA champion, OG Anunoby, and the entire Knicks roster didn't quit. It would have been easy to throw in the towel and say, okay, 2-2, we're happy with this. But they didn't. They just kept fighting. That third quarter changed everything. And then you saw Wemby and the team kind of fall apart. It was good basketball by the Knicks, but there is no excuse for missing free throws. Both teams are tired. Both teams have played a full game. Obviously, the Spurs have played more basketball. They're younger and more inexperienced. Victor Wembanyama had a chance to go there and hit 2 free throws late in that game, and probably, you guarantee overtime at that point if you're the Spurs. You'd go up 3. But for 2 entire minutes, the Spurs scored 2 points. It was horrible basketball at the end, and it was just lazy. Missing free throws, turning the ball over. De'Aaron Fox played an excellent game up until the very final possession when all he had to do was hold the ball. He goes down, he gets the layup blocked by OG Anunoby and gives the Knicks a chance to pull off the greatest upset in NBA Finals history. One of the greatest upsets and comebacks we've ever seen in sports history. And it was all because of poor mistakes, poor free throw shooting, poor decision making on offense. And, Josh Hart gave the game away. He talks about that. He says OG Anunoby is his favorite person in the world because Josh Hart literally gave the game away on the previous possession by turning it over. And now we go down here, missed free throws, and we go and we don't hold the ball. There's 7 seconds left, and you're up by 1 point. And he says, I think I could run OG. Yeah, you probably can. In a straight foot race, you can probably outrun OG. And even if you do, I still don't know how that serves you any better. Now there's 5 seconds left and you're up by 3. Whereas before, maybe you dribble around, you take off a few more seconds off the clock, you hit your free throws, and you still go up by 3. So I don't know, maybe they would have missed those free throws. It's hard to criticize in the moment, but it's pretty easy to see and see key moments where things went wrong. And then you look at the Knicks, I'm not even sure they deserve to win. Jalen Brunson, and maybe he'll say it's strategy, and I'm sure there's some element to it, takes a double team, 27-foot three-pointer from almost half court. Why? How is that the shot that you want when you still have 4 or 3 seconds left on the clock, and that's what you come up with? The Knicks are very fortunate they're playing a very inexperienced team in the Spurs because they don't deserve to be winning this series with an extremely uncreative offense. But NBA champion OG Anunoby won them that game. I actually had an 890 to 1 odds bet on him pre-series to win the finals MVP, and we're going to see 89 to 1. We're going to see what happens. I don't know if he is going to win. Brunson is probably still the favorite. But to me, it makes a lot of sense that OG gets it. He's the veteran. He's the one that has been, playing excellent defense, hitting the big shots when it matters, and being efficient with his offense. If it was up to Brunson that game, the series would be tied because he took that long shot and the long rebound comes off an incredible tip in by OG after running the floor on the other side and blocking the layup from De'Aaron Fox. So that's what champions are made of. Key moments like that. The NBA, you have your moment now. You have your superstar, you have your clip. Everyone's going to be talking about this. This finals now, both in the NBA and the NHL, has made history. It's been really, really awesome to see. Extremely proud of watching what the Knicks organization has done. Like I said, it's hard not to root for them after the kind of the crap that they've been through for multiple years. I don't know if I love their ownership group, but that has nothing to do with their fans, their players, and everybody who roots for them. So if you do get it done, congratulations. Series is certainly not over. We go back to San Antonio for Game 5, and the extender, Tony Brothers, I'm calling it now. He's getting called in. Game 6 in New York is where it finishes. That's the SamCentre official prediction. But if you're going to bet responsibly, as always, please. All right, moving on to this show, we're going to talk CFL, and they had an awesome game this Thursday night in Winnipeg. Another sold-out crowd for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and honestly, what else can we say about the organization that has not already been said? 14 straight sellouts for them, over 30,000 fans packing the house at the Rum Hut. Kate Burness and the entire team with Milt Stiegel was getting in there with the crowd, and it looked like an awesome time. But Bo Levi Mitchell and the Hamilton Tiger Cats came to spoil the party. There is a bomb that went off in Winnipeg because I think some of the flaws that I had spoke about on Wednesday's episode were exposed. Winnipeg is a team that if they can dictate the pace of the game, they're going to be excellent this year. I really struggle to see how they can play from behind against a team like Hamilton. And that's exactly what we saw. Hamilton comes out and they bomb deep shots all game. Bo Levi Mitchell does not blink. That entire team with Lawler, with the rest of the playmakers on Hamilton are incredible. And they're an offense that, there's probably going to be times where things don't work. Interceptions are going to be thrown and there's going to be games that look ugly, but they're going to put up points. And Bo Levi is going to be in contention for the most improved player every single year because he just seems to keep getting better. It's crazy to think that at his age, he almost has that Tom Brady, that effect of these older quarterbacks who now he sees everything in the game. He has the ability. So watching him run this offense against a pretty lackluster zone defense in Winnipeg, it was easy pickings. If Bo Levi didn't miss the throw, Winnipeg didn't have much to offer. There wasn't much of a pass rush, especially in the second half. And obviously the run game does mitigate that a little bit, but almost no pressure on Bo Levi Mitchell. And he would just pick apart the zone defense every time. There was some key second and longs. I remember in the second quarter there, Hamilton was on their own 6-yard line. And first down, Bo Levi bombs a shot and just misses it. So 2nd and 10 on your own 6-yard line, you kind of expect, okay, well, punt here, we can get the ball back, good field position for Winnipeg, go down, maybe put up some points. Instead, they play 15 yards off the ball, and it's an easy 12-yard completion for Hamilton. They move the sticks, and they go down, and they control the pace of the game. They control field position, they put up points, and they scored really at will. In the second half, they showed they're a team that can run the ball and play defense. The game ended up being 37-27 for the Hamilton Ticats, and I think for me, it could have easily been more. Obviously Winnipeg scored their late touchdown in order to get it a little bit closer, but it was just an effort that Winnipeg is going to be a team that will always compete and be there. And I think there's going to be a lot of matchups this year that they do win because their strengths are going to beat a lot of teams. I think against a team like Edmonton, honestly, Winnipeg matches up quite well. Against a team like Calgary and maybe even Saskatchewan. Against those teams that will play you tough, they'll run the ball against you, they'll want to control the pace of play. That's Winnipeg's game, and those are winnable games for them. Against BC, against Hamilton, maybe Toronto. I don't want to say we have to see them play, but against Montreal, certainly we saw it. They might, or we'll see it maybe coming up, they might struggle because Montreal and these teams, the Hamiltons, the BCs, they have guys who can sling it. And if Winnipeg cannot keep up, points are going to be scored. This is the CFL. This is the most exciting football league we have in the world, baby. And we talked about how many points get scored and why the offense is able to put up points. And a team like Hamilton, they start on your 40 after you go down and score a field goal. They're going to put up 7, or they're going to attempt to put up 7. And if you cannot consistently put up 7 points, or if your defense and run game cannot control the pace of play, you will lose and you will get outscored and embarrassed. And that's what happened. Against a team maybe that doesn't have that explosive offense, and they rely a little bit on controlling the pace of play and playing similar to Winnipeg, I do think there's winnable games. So, Winnipeg, you're 1-1. It's still extremely early. You did go in on the road and you beat Calgary, so there's still a lot to be happy about. Ticats fans, I told you not to panic. I said you're going to be just fine, and that's exactly what we saw. That team is extremely talented. They have a ground game, which actually did surprise me. I thought maybe in the second half, and what we saw in the second half against Montreal was relying on our offense to throw the ball consistently, and a team like Montreal tightened up their secondary, and they were able to come back. But you didn't see that today. You saw a Hamilton team in the second half that really controlled the pace of play with short intermediate throws and the ground game. Their defense stepped up as well, and that's not something we've seen out of Hamilton the past few years. So Bo Levi-Mitchell knows how to win. They have guys on the offense who can make big plays, and if that defense can hold teams under 30 points a night, you have to like Hamilton's chance in almost any game they go against. So I think it's almost opposite. I think Winnipeg needs to control the pace of play, and it's tough for them to play from behind. Whereas with Hamilton, even if they're down 2 scores, I would be a little nervous if I'm sitting on the sidelines for the Edmonton Elks. We're up 14, because obviously we will be. We're the best team in the league. Hamilton and Bo Levi can come back. So we'll see Friday, we'll see Saturday. I'm super excited for the rest of the slate. But the CFL proving once again why it's the best league in the world. Another competitive game, a sold-out atmosphere in Winnipeg. Both teams now 1-1 to begin their season. Looking ahead to the rest of our games, which we broke down on Wednesday. All right, on to the star of our Friday show. It is UFC Fridays. I'm super excited to break down the Freedom 250 White House card. Now, for UFC fans, this is kind of our Super Bowl. And I've heard a ton of hate online. What if it rains? What if there's bugs? Who cares? We have 7 incredible fights. We have all 7 matchups that you need to tune into. There is no reason to skip a single one of these. It's on Sunday night, primetime, the White House grounds. Donald Trump's birthday, 2 of his favorite fighters on this card, a bunch of my favorite fighters on this card. Let's get into it right now with the official bout order. Diego Lopez is taking on Steve Garcia at a matchup in the 145-pound division. For me, this is a matchup where I originally thought to myself, easy. Diego Lopez, whatever the odds are, I'm betting him. This man is one of my favorite fighters. I have his trading card right here beside me. I met him in Vancouver when I went to go see the Brendan Allen versus Rene de Ridder fight. Met him at a meet and greet, waited in the rain for about an hour and a half. Worth every penny. Great man. I'm a little worried for him in this matchup after doing some tape study and some tapology study. When I thought I was all in on Diego. Steve Garcia is a gangster. The guy can fight, and he's fought good competition. In my head, I thought, okay, it's clear. Diego doesn't lose to anybody not named Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, obviously, the Evloev fight is what it is in his debut. We all know kind of the surrounding around that. But if you're not named Alexander the Great Volkanovski, you don't beat Diego Lopez. And I think in my head, I instantly went to, okay, Diego's fought the better competition. He's the more durable fighter. He's probably much better on the ground. And Steve isn't ready for this opportunity. And then, as we do, here at SamCentre, we go through the tape and we go through the film. And I went to Tapology. And I went and I looked at Steve Garcia and I said to myself, okay, Diego has undoubtedly fought the better competition and shown high-level 5-round championship experience. But this is a 3-round fight. And in my head, Steve Garcia is a very live dog. And here's the reason why. He's fought extremely high-level competition in the UFC. You know, he's fought guys who I personally am impressed with. Guys who I like in the names like, you know, Kyle Nelson, Melky Costa, Calvin Kattar. He's also fought Chase Hooper and won these fights. David Onama, to me, is not really a name that you can look at and think to yourself, okay, he's ready to take on Diego. But taking on all of these names and winning at different times, I think is impressive. You know, Steve Garcia has a list of bodies which are long. Diego Lopez has fought guys like the Brian Ortegas, you know, the Dan Igues. We talked about Volkanovski, obviously, the John Silva in the most recent bout there. But to me, this matchup is quite close, and the odds do reflect that. I still would like to lean Diego in a very competitive decision. Maybe. We'll talk about it because what I think, honestly, I've seen in the UFC Embedded episode, Diego Lopez is down in Stillwater, Oklahoma, training with the Oklahoma State wrestling team. And if you know anything about collegiate wrestling, Oklahoma State is the class of the class when we're talking about Division I wrestling programs. They have multiple champions and multiple high-level wrestlers. And he's wrestling with these young athletes. And that, coupled with the high-level submission game for Diego Lopez, durability, all things considered, I think that means he's probably the favorite here. So, official SamCentre pick in my fight, and keep in mind this is extremely biased because Diego Lopez, you are one of my favorite fighters ever. I will ride and bet on you every single time that you fight. Official prediction, Diego Lopez by submission in round 2 or 3. I do think this fight goes over 1.5 rounds. I see it being extremely competitive, and if it's really hot outside, if there's other factors to maybe think in mind, it could be tough to potentially get those submissions locked in. I just do favor the positional wrestling, the cardio, the big level experience of Diego Lopez. But Steve Garcia, I'm impressed. And I think you're going to see a guy who will not quit on himself. It's very possible we see a knockout, but both guys are extremely durable. I lean Diego Lopez decision or submission for the official pick in the first bout. And moving on, we have Bo Nickel taking on Kyle Daukaus. And to me, this is maybe one of the clearest fights on the card. We have a lot of massive favorites, and Bo Nickel is one of them. To be completely honest, it's well deserved. Bo Nickel is a fighter who I am quite high on, and losing, in my opinion, to Renato de Ridder is not a sign that you're a fraud. Okay, there's been close fights for Bo Nickel, but he fought a man like Paul Craig when he had 6 professional MMA fights. Paul Craig has about 130 of them and is one of the greatest submission artists we've ever seen. That's Bo's game. So of course he didn't go to the ground with him. He was able to strike with him and win the decision. You know, Bo Nickel has had some competitive decisions, but not recently. Recently he's been going in there and dominating. So the people saying, hey, Bo Nickel, he might lose this fight, this is simply you hating on Bo Nickel and wanting to fade him. I do understand. He did lose to Renato de Ridder, but he went in there with one of the highest level submission artists in the game when he was on a tear, and he didn't wilt after 1 round. He went in there and he got finished in round 2, but he didn't quit on the stool. He didn't do anything like that. He had a good fight, and he had 6 or 7 pro fights at that time. So in my mind, Bo Nickel is a guy you have to look out for, a Division I national champion wrestler. Actually, we're going to talk about who he fought a little bit later on this card when we talk about the heavyweight matchup. But at 185 pounds, Bo Nickel, he really is a problem for a lot of guys. And one of those guys he's a problem for is Kyle Daukaus, his opponent. I am not impressed with Kyle Daukaus, and I do not get the love that everybody is showing to this man. And I get it. He came back after being out of the UFC, got a couple wins on the regional scene, and he came back and he's ready for this opportunity. Everyone's starting to think, oh, he has hands. He has the opportunity to knock out a Bo Nickel. I don't see it. He finished GM3 in the first round. GM3 is a husk of a man at this point. He looks like one of the ghouls from Fallout, right? So you can't even expect GM3 to put up a competitive performance, and he didn't. He got finished in less than a minute to Kyle Daukaus. Like, what are we doing here? Michel Pereira, another guy who should not be in the UFC, and he showed that, losing in under a minute to Kyle Daukaus. Now, another round 1 finish in his last fight outside of the UFC before getting re-signed. You think to yourself, this man is a killer. The problem is I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name of the guy he finished in the first round before entering the UFC because you won't know him and I don't know him. So now we start to look back and we say 3 fights ending in the first round for Daukaus, extremely impressive, but it's against 3 guys that Bo Nickel would have finished in the first round as well. And so one thing that's given me a lot of pause is in the past 4 years, this man, Kyle Daukaus, has lost 2 times to Eric Anders. He's lost twice to Eric Anders. I'll repeat that one more time. In the past 4 years, Kyle Daukaus has lost 2 fights to Eric Anders. One of them was in MMA and one of them was in submission grappling. Now, Bo Nickel is much better than Eric Anders. Bo Nickel is much better than any of the men that he fought. And if you want to go to the ground and if you want to practice grappling and be in grappling matches, you are going to have an extremely tough time against Bo Nickel. A man like René de Ridder didn't go to the ground and finish Bo Nickel, so I cannot see Kyle Daukaus doing that. His path to victory might be just outstriking him. And that could happen. He could defend all the takedowns, he could outstrike him, and I could look like an idiot on Monday, coming back to you and saying I was wrong. But to me, this is one of the clearest fights on the card. Give me Bo Nickel to finish this fight. He submits Kyle Daukaus, and he submits him in under 1.5 rounds. I don't believe this is close. I believe we're going to see extremely high levels to this. As we're going to talk about in some of the other fights, we're going to see levels as well. This is one of the more clear ones to me, but let's see if I'm right. Okay, guys, moving on. We have our next fight, and this is one that as a UFC fan, if you're not excited for it, I don't even want you in my comments section. Get out of my video. We don't need you here on SamCentre. We have Mauricio Rufy against Michael Chandler, and for me, this fight is guaranteed action. Unless Chandler can come in here, slow down the pace, wrestle, do his thing. But when has that ever happened? We've never seen Michael Chandler do that. 41 years old. The man is here to get knocked out. He's here to be the next stepping stone for this contender in Rufy, who is an absolutely incredible striker. A man who, if you were to maybe squint from far away, you would swear at 155 pounds is Conor McGregor, right? He's got the similar tattoo style, that similar karate stance where he keeps the hands low and is so creative in his striking. If you just go on Google after this and you look up Mauricio Rufy striking highlights, I want you to see what I'm talking about. The man will throw things from down on the ground, lay kicks that you cannot defend, and it is the most autistic thing you will see in the octagon. But it works. He can knock you out. He can grapple. He's a Brazilian. He has submission games. He's 13-2. And he's facing a Michael Chandler who at this point in his career, 41 years old, coming off multiple losses, coming off getting dominated by Charles Oliveira, getting dominated by Paddy Pimblett. You know, there's a lot of times where Michael Chandler recently has been the nail. And something that I want to bring up is I'm not sure Michael Chandler was ever that good. Obviously, he was a champion in Bellator for multiple years and had many, many highlights. But when he came to the UFC, he knocked out Dan Hooker, who likes men, and he ended up beating he beat Dan Hooker and he ended up knocking out a Tony Ferguson, who was an absolute dead man walking at that point in his career. Right, that was after the Gaethje fight. That was after Ferguson was essentially just out of the sport and about to go on his losing streak. That being said, 2026 championship run, Tony Ferguson starts now. Michael Chandler, I really do wonder if you were ever that good to begin with. And obviously he was. He's a champion with all due respect. I could not get in the cage and go up against that man, so I will not disrespect somebody who is a man of God, a family man, and somebody who goes out there and entertains us every single time. But this is a clear mismatch again. I think Chandler's really only path to victory is to go out there and wrestle and hope that he can win a decision. Maybe get a submission, but Rufy's going to be extremely dangerous, and he's going to be looking to kill Michael Chandler. He's going to say, hey, you're 41 years old, coming off multiple losses, multiple knockout losses, and times where you've been outstruck by guys worse than me. And that's why it's a minus 600 mismatch, right? Like that's why we're going to see extreme action in this fight. I do think it has the potential to go over a round and a half again, just because both guys are extremely tough. Chandler has one of the best physiques in MMA. Pause. Still at the age of 41. Just incredible. So you're going to see high level action followed up with our next fight, the Fatties. And to me, the Fatties, it's hit or miss, right? Sometimes you get a great fight and sometimes you get a terrible fight, and that's exactly what we're going to see here. We have the ultimate UFC knockout king in Derek Lewis, one of the greatest KO artists this sport has ever seen. He has fought and beaten multiple UFC heavyweight champions, some of the scariest men in the world, taking on Josh Hokett. You couldn't even have told me that this fight would have come together a year ago. I would have laughed in your face, and here we are. Donald Trump's favorite fighter, Derek Lewis, my balls are hot, facing Josh Hokett. And my analysis on this fight is simple. I think everybody is completely disrespecting Derek Lewis, and maybe they're right. Maybe Derek Lewis goes out there and quits in a round and gets TKO'd by Hokett, and Hokett gets on the mic and starts ripping just the most insane speech ever, and they have to cut off his mic on Paramount. Maybe. But what we need to talk about, and this is what I talked about at the beginning of the episode, Josh Hokett wrestled Bo Nickel in college. Josh Hokett is an extremely well-rounded guy. He's a guy who can strike. He went in there with Curtis Blades. He showed he was tough. I mean, he ate a lot of damage, but he dished out a lot as well. He had the cardio to go 3 rounds with extremely high output, and he has a good wrestling game. He should be able to take Derek Lewis down and dominate him on the ground and make him quit. That's how this fight should go, and that's why you see the odds the way that they are. But I have a little bit of a pause here because he wrestled Bo Nickel at 185 pounds. And Bo is still fighting in the UFC at 185 pounds. Whereas now you have Hokett up at heavyweight, where Derek Lewis never in his life, maybe when Derek Lewis was 12 years old, he made 185 pounds. Since the age of 12, Derek Lewis has not made 185 pounds. One of his balls might weigh 185 pounds. Right? So now we're talking about a true heavyweight going up against Hokett, and we have to see if he can handle that. He went up against a Curtis Blades who's not a massive heavyweight, truthfully. Blades is one of those in-between guys. He's a big man, but he's a guy not with that big punching power. He's quick, he can fight, and he doesn't quit on himself. But the shots that Hokett was taking against Blades, if he takes that against Lewis, he's going to sleep. Guaranteed. And there's a narrative out there now that Derek Lewis quits. And we did see that Waldo fight, and I get it. It was a horrible, horrible performance. He looked like he didn't want to be there, almost no output, and just went down in the second round there after very low output by Waldo as well. But it's not like Derek Lewis has shown us that he quits all the time. This narrative that he quits, I don't get it. Go back and look at his recent performances before that. He won in round 3. He won in round 1. He wins a decision. He loses a decision. You know, it's not like Derek Lewis is quitting on the stool. It's possible he went in there and he really did feel that Waldo is massive and young and can wrestle and can hit him hard, and he didn't like what he felt. And at this point, Lewis doesn't need that. So sure, maybe he quit. But I don't see this narrative that Derek Lewis is coming in here just to take a dive. You know, he's Donald Trump's favorite fighter, and the way he's talking is not that he's here to retire and quit. And if Hokett is going to look small, which I think he will, if he cannot get the takedowns early, he's going to be in trouble on the feet. He cannot take those shots that he took against Curtis Blades, against Derek Lewis, or he's going to sleep. So the official play, if I'm using my head and if I'm using not my heart, is Hokit most likely finishes Derek Lewis within a round and a half. But I wouldn't say that's a guarantee. My official prediction, and I think I might be the only man on YouTube calling this. I want all of you in the comments afterwards when Derek Lewis knocks out Josh Hokit in the first round and takes off his shorts, signs them, throws them to Donald Trump for his birthday. Cinema, baby. I can't wait. In all seriousness, though, please do not take that as official advice. Moving on, we have Sugar Sean O'Malley taking on Amen Zahabi, and in a fight I think should be very clear-cut as well. I do not like Amen Zahabi. I think he's a very boring fighter who has gotten gifted multiple decisions that he should not have been gifted. I was there live in his last fight against Chito Vera, and we all said it in the crowd. Chito won this fight, but I guarantee they steal it for Zahabi, and that's what happened. You see a man who has gotten blessed by just being somebody who puts out a high volume, puts out a pace where he pushes you against the fence, he'll take you down, he'll stall the fight, and he really will make you look like you're not doing much. You know, Chito lost that fight for one reason. And it's because Chito refuses to do anything in the first round of any fight ever. But to me, that's not an impressive performance by Zahabi. And I think he lost to Aldo. And so now if we start going back, Sean has lost to one guy, and that's Merab. Merab beats everybody outside of Jan, who Sean beat. And again, that was a competitive decision, but I have rewatched that fight multiple times, and I rewatched that fight leading up to this. I do think Sean won that fight. I think he stole it with the damage that he put on Jan. And I think he's going to do damage to Zahabi here, because everyone's saying, takedown, takedown, takedown. Okay, maybe there's been one guy that's taken down Sean, and that's Merab. He's fought Sandhagen. He's fought Chito. He's fought all these other guys, Jan, and he's not going down. And so to me, Zahabi at 38 years old is going to be the nail in this fight. He's going to be slower. He's going to be the worst striker. His chance is to stall the fight and win a boring decision. But he's a Canadian on the Freedom 250 White House card, facing a man who dyed his hair purple, pink, blue for America. He's not beating Sean O'Malley, and Sean O'Malley now has a real case to be made that it's time for him to fight for the title next, right? He has the idea that he's beaten Jan. And so if Jan goes out there and beats Merab again, it's O'Malley up next. If Merab can beat Jan, then obviously I think you have to run that back one more time, and then Sean probably has to fight a next contender over there at 35 or potentially move up to 45. My official prediction, Sugar Sean O'Malley, and Sugar Sean O'Malley by knockout. I think this is going to be a mismatch of the century, and people are going to be embarrassed if they put a single dollar on Zahabi. Let's see if I'm right. Into our co-main event, and someone I'm extremely super excited to break down and see is Alex Pereira facing the Frenchman, eye poker, dirty fighter, Cyril Gane. This is going to be an incredible fight. And everyone, again, is so sold that Gane is this point fighter who's going to go and just pick Alex apart for 5 rounds, dance around, take him down, chop down his legs. Maybe. I mean, I've seen Alex. That guy, he looks massive right now. He's got a BBL. He got a BBL before this fight. You think he's going to go out there and lose on the White House grounds? In my opinion, Pereira is the more dangerous fighter. He has the chance to hurt Gane everywhere. He can hurt him to the body, he can hurt him with the leg kicks, and he can hurt him with any shot up high, with that left hook especially. Gane has the chance to win the moments, or win the round. He can win the points. But Pereira has the chance to win the moments. And on a fight like this, in a fight where it's a spectacle, you're going to side with the guy who wins the moments. And so this fight could potentially go long. I don't doubt that. But Alex has the chance to finish you later in the fight. Where Gane went out there, he got destroyed by John Jones in a round. He got taken down and finished. And Alex has been training with one of the greatest submission artists in history for multiple years in Glover Teixeira. That camp has produced multiple high-level strikers, multiple high-level grapplers. And so to everyone thinking that Gane's going to go out there and pick Alex apart for 5 rounds, when have you seen it? Even against Adesanya, there were multiple times where Pereira, and how did this man make 185, first of all? But against Adesanya, every single time. I'm a big Izzy fan. Izzy was winning the moments, or winning the rounds. But he was point fighting, right? Even in that first fight in the UFC, winning the rounds. Alex went in there, finished him. In that second time, Izzy got the flash knockout, but Alex was looking like he was about to finish Israel Adesanya again. Izzy's one of the greatest round winners in history. Alex went out there against an Ankalaev, a guy who can win rounds, who can win minutes, and he destroyed him in the rematch. Against a Jamal Hill, a guy who can, again, win moments with his boxing, with his activity. He went in there, he felt the power, and he went down. And so Gane, I think he's going to quit. He's French. His path to victory is pick his fight. He's going to jab. He's going to go in there. He's going to clinch. He's going to push him up against the fence. He's going to eye poke Alex. He might even hit him in the back of the head a couple times. But I'm not sure this matters. I think when that fight is standing, the damage is on Pereira's side. I think he's going to have the bigger moments, more damage. And once Gane starts to feel that damage coming at him, I think he's going to want to get out of there quick. He's going to turn into a wrestler. Alex is going to defend those takedowns, or he'll go to the ground with him and show that he is an evolved mixed martial artist, a man who can kickbox, a man who can go to the ground and not be submitted. Everybody knows the book on Alex. Take him down, do this, do that, stay away from his power. Very few men have been able to do that, and I don't think Gane is the one to do it. So give me Alex to become the interim heavyweight champion of the world, and I do understand what everybody's saying. So he would be officially the first 3-division champion in UFC history. And it is in the unified heavyweight belt. John Jones is waiting for him. I understand that. It's an incredible feat, though, to have a belt at 85, to have a belt at light heavyweight, and then to go up to heavyweight, and then also have an interim belt. If we want to call it interim, whatever it is, it would be an incredible act. He'd be one of the greatest mixed martial artists in history. Give me Alex Pereira to go make history Sunday night in the co-main event at Freedom 250. And now we're talking about our main event in Ilia Topuria taking on Justin Gaethje. Ilia, the midget at 155 pounds, taking on Justin Gaethje. And I say that not to mock and not to make fun. That has been the narrative around this fight. Justin Gaethje's father came out and said, Justin does much better against shorter fighters, which Ilia is, in his opinion. Ilia took massive offense to that. And now there has been a whole bunch of lead up where Ilia says, it wasn't personal, but now it's personal. He's talked about my divorce. He's talked about the fact that I am short. I will kill this man. And we'll see, right? On paper, it makes a lot of sense that Ilia would go out there and finish Justin and do it violently. He's, of course, the cleaner striker. He's the man with the best technique potentially in the UFC as far as his striking goes. His hands are clean. You know what? There was many times where I doubted Ilia, and I will never do that again after he went out and knocked out my GOAT, Charles Oliveira, and knocked him out to the point where I've never seen Charles flat KO'd like that before. Right? So Ilia has a real argument to be made that he is the cleanest, the most powerful, the best striker in all of the UFC. He has a Greco-Roman wrestling as his as his base, and I think for this fight especially, that's going to be really important. If you go on the embedded episodes, Justin is almost exclusively wrestling in those training footages. And that doesn't mean he's not training other things. I'm not sure Justin Gaethje, he doesn't need to know how to strike at this point. But he was getting pieced up by Paddy Pimblett. He was getting pieced up by Charles Oliveira. And if that's going to happen to you, Ilia Topuria is going to land, and he's going to land often, and he's going to land clean. Now at 155 pounds, Ilia has shown he still has the power. He might be short, but that doesn't matter. Mike Tyson was extremely short and small for the heavyweight division. He is one of the greatest knockout artists the sport has ever seen because his technique, the way Tyson would slip and hit you with a left hand to the body, hit you with a right hook, he would put guys down that he was much smaller than. And Ilia has the chance to do the same. He went in there, and I doubted him against Charles. Charles is the greatest fighter in UFC history, in my opinion. That's his glove. That's the poster behind me. I love this man. But he went out there and he showed that he is better than Charles at this point. He went out there, he's shown he's better than multiple guys at this point in his career, and he's better than Justin Gaethje. He really is. You know, there is a path for Justin. Justin's tough. He's going to be the bigger fighter. He's going to be durable, we would think, and he can wrestle. So in all facets, the fact that it's minus 600 feels both fair and unfair. You know, Justin Gaethje gets hit a lot. And that's going to be the problem in this fight, truthfully. He's a high-level collegiate wrestler as well. He's the same sort of thing as a lot of these other guys we've broken down, but Justin doesn't use it. And it's really tough to say that he's just going to go in there in a fight now, one of the biggest fights in his career, and just exclusively wrestle when he hasn't shown that at any point in his career. My breakdown is he's going to attempt it. The first round or two, and maybe he does get a couple takedowns. But Ilya reversed a position against Charles on the ground, and if you do that, you're going to reverse the position against Justin on the ground. You will. My official prediction is this. Leg kicks from Justin Gaethje in the first with some outside striking and some pushing up against the fence. I really do think it's a competitive first round. Ilya has been outside of the ring for a while, and he knows Justin is the most dangerous when he's fresh. So for Ilya, coming in with a smart game plan, he's going to be a little bit more conservative. Justin is going to throw a leg kick, which will be caught by Ilia Topuria. Ilya will take him down because Justin's going to accept the wrestling position. This is what he's trained in camp. So that's what's going to happen. We're going to have a scramble on the ground where Justin ends up on top. The position will be reversed by Ilya. Arm triangle submission victory inside 3.5 rounds for Ilia Topuria is the official SamCentre call in your main event on the White House grounds. I'm picking against a lot of Americans on this card. Obviously, that might not happen, right? We could see wonky things. The UFC are bringing in their own judges. Not a lot of fights happen in the DC area, so we could see something get a little silly, but I don't think so. Ilya, it makes a lot of sense for him to win this matchup, and then it looks like he's moving up to 170 pounds to take on Islam Makhachev in what would be maybe the biggest fight since Conor versus Khabib. Very similar lead up, very similar in all different things. We'll break that down if it ends up happening, but let's enjoy Sunday. I don't want to hear any complaints about anything. This is our Super Bowl. Sunday night on the White House grounds. Tune in, all 7 fights we talked about. If you're going to bet responsible, but just enjoy this card. It's going to be high-level action. We're going to break it down Monday on our episode of SamCentre when we're back. I want to say thank you everyone who tuned into episode 2. We are going to continue to roll. We're going to continue to get better. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. SamCentre out.